All right, welcome everybody for today's Real Estate Realities Google Hangout. Glad to have you. Super excited that you guys made it on the Hangout with us today. I've got an awesome guest. Really looking forward to sharing with you in a cool way some of the simpler stuff we do that has massive impact for our sellers, in that it helps us sell houses for significantly more and quite a bit faster as well. So in a market like the one that most of us are in right now, we're seeing people do one of the two: sell really fast or get top dollar. But I'm still not seeing most people get both. So what we're going to talk about today is the 3 key vendor relationships, the 3 people that you need to have as an extension of your team, or maybe even as part of your team, that will help you sell homes more quickly and for more money, both. We're going to spend a lot of our time with one of those key vendors today, and I'll introduce my guest here in a second. But we are going to talk about those 3 key vendors, and I'm also going to share with you guys some of the ways that we kind of communicate with those vendors, and even more so how we communicate to our clients and our prospective clients the value of those different vendors. Okay, so a couple things that we're going to definitely learn today, that we're going to definitely share about today, is how we pre-sell, how we communicate the value of those 3 key vendors. Might get into a little bit about how to identify and locate some of those key vendors, and then how to either incorporate those vendor services into your own service, or how to communicate them as kind of a +1, but still part of your system. So we'll do some Q&A on that. Q&A is going to be live the entire time. So if you're with us live through Google Plus, then you can definitely pop in on the Q&A app over there and just drop in questions whenever you can. I'll stop at a few different points and make sure we answer as many of those as we can. We actually already had some questions come in before, so I'll try to answer those as well. But I don't want to waste a whole bunch of time. So real quick, let me introduce our guest. I'm super excited to have Jana on the event with us. As far as I'm concerned, Jana is as good as it gets anywhere in the country, or world for that matter, when it comes to positioning your home for sale. She's the owner of Model My Home, a home staging company here in the DFW area, but she's also the founder of the Home Staging and Redesign Association, HSRA. And through the association, I'll let her share more, but they train and equip stagers and real estate agents all over the world to improve the positioning of the homes that they're selling. She's also the author of a good book, Home Staging by the Book, and we'll talk about some of the cool stuff that I pulled out of that while I read it as well. Jana and I have become friends over the last 4 or 5 years as we've worked together to sell a bunch of houses for a lot of money in a very little amount of time. We share some common passions for youth ministry and marketing and small business and leadership, and it'll be really fun to have her on the line with us. So are you there, Jana?
I am here. Thanks for having me.
Good. Excited to have you. Thanks for being here. I think folks that are watching and listening will get a tremendous amount of value from what you have to share with us. Before we jump into that, though, I do want to remind everybody, stick with us all the way to the end. There's going to be some pretty cool bonuses on this one. We're going to give away some easy, immediate, actionable, valuable stuff so that you can take, print it out, and build it into your business right away. Use it today or tomorrow in your business. So stick with us. We'll make sure we get some of that into your hand. We'll talk through some of that now, but we'll get you a soft copy or hard copy of some really good, valuable resources here if you stick with us all the way through. So real quick, Jana, just wanted to kind of, I guess for me anyway, start with something kind of fun. Tell me why in the world somebody would hire a stager. I mean, everybody knows that it's kind of a waste of money and they're going to bring in fake fruit, and it's just really not worth it. So why would somebody do that?
Well, Todd, that's a great question. And sadly, that's what a lot of people think, right? So for us, we understand that we're in a visual market. We understand that we're in an emotional industry, and we have a product to sell, and that's going to appeal to the senses. And for any stager, any good professional stager, they're going to offer 3 different services. One is a consultation. It can be for a vacant or an occupied. The other is an occupied stage, and then, of course, a vacant. Now, if you're talking about bringing in fake fruit, they're probably thinking about those vacant homes that, people just kind of put a bunch of furniture in. But really, the way that we see it is it's a vacant home is like a naked home, and it's hard to connect to four blank walls. In fact, studies show that over 90% of people cannot envision themselves living in the home. They've done the studies. National Association of Realtors actually just put out an incredible report on staging, profile of home staging for 2015. And so the proof is there. It does work. Sometimes when we're in the industry, we can walk into a vacant home. We can walk into an occupied, cluttered home, and we, as either the real estate agent, the stager, we can see the potential, but we've got to understand it's about the buyer. And this buyer may be an IT person. They may be working retail. They have to see the picture painted for them of allowing them to see their family there. So it's a little bit more than fake fruit. And, there's strategy, there's art and science behind what we do. And it's about the strategic placement of the items in the home so that it photographs well. It's great for the walkthrough as people tour the home. They're not walking around furniture. So, the way that you live, unfortunately, isn't the way you list.
Yeah, and so obviously I was joking about the fake fruit, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share with folks that are kind of with us that maybe aren't super familiar with staging. That really might be their perception of staging is right. In the process of being out and showing houses, they may have shown some houses that basically look vacant with a bowl of fake fruit, and that's what they think staging is. And we've had the privilege to work directly with you guys and see the huge benefit that staging has on our marketing process. But not everybody has. I mean, I have to be careful with kind of the audience that's with us, because there's a lot of people on here that I know that are with me every time we do this, but there's also new people every time. And I don't want to assume that everybody has a very clear understanding of what staging is, but what are some of the other misconceptions that you guys run into kind of from the agent perspective or even from the homeowner perspective of what staging is that may not be exactly accurate?
Well, the biggest one I would say is that staging and decorating are the same thing. Decorating is very personal. And if you hired a decorator, they would come in, they would ask you, what is your personal style and taste? What colors do you like? But when we talk about staging now, it's majority rules. So we're going to depersonalize the home. We're going to allow the majority, who is our target buyer based on demographics and psychographics, who's moving into the neighborhood and what do they like? And then we're going to set that home up to appeal to them. If a wall is red, maybe only 50% of people like red. If we change that to a kill and beige, then that's a light, neutral color, then maybe 90% of people are going to be okay with that. So it's all about appealing to the majority, not necessarily decorating. We're not going to fill the house full of furniture from the biggest high-end store. You don't need to do that. It's about strategic placement of key pieces that are comparable to the price point of the home, and that's going to really make the difference. And then, of course, the biggest thing is staging just costs too much, right? People see it as a cost and not necessarily an investment. So that's another objection we face quite a bit, and a little bit of, we have to educate them and say, well, what is this going to save you time on the market? What are your carrying costs per month? Most of the time, staging is less than your first price reduction, and it's usually less than a mortgage payment.
Yep. And those are excellent points. I think I'm taking notes here as we go. I always learn something from our guests, even though I choose the guests. So I'm always excited to pick up ideas and things. A couple of thoughts I have on what you're saying. I mean, even agents that I've consulted with around the country and helped them build staging into their process. And if you're an agent and you're listening and you know what staging is, stick with us. We're going to get way beyond the definition of staging here and talk about how you can make more money with the idea of staging and a couple of other key vendors. So stick with us. We're going to get there very quickly, but it's important to differentiate what what we're talking about versus design. And that's kind of one of the comments I wanted to make is there's a lot of agents that I talk with that they've got a friend or a sister-in-law or an assistant that's got a great eye for design. And it probably really is a great eye for design. They know what looks good. But you made the point that I always make with our clients is we're not trying to design the home to be the most comfortable and beautiful environment for you to live in. I always use the metaphor of selling a car. You know, last time I sold a car, the day I went to sell the car, it was beautiful. Leather conditioner, tire conditioner, Armor All, pina colada air freshener. But the day before that, you could tell that I have 2 little kids and I do youth ministry, and there was Cheerios on the seat and dirty cleats on the floor and dirty, smelly baseball bag and 15 books and 25 audio CDs. I mean, the day before was not time to sell it. The day it was time to sell it, it looked completely different, looked, smelt, and felt completely different. It's the same thing in our houses. And so when a designer comes in, we're trying to combine comfort and aesthetics and all those things. When you guys come in, the way I communicate it, and we're actually going to get into some of the very specifics of how I communicate it, but I tell people, you know, we're going to have stagers come in and design this so that when someone's here for 5 to 15 minutes, it flows well, it looks good, photos look good. When they make a $2 or $3 or $4 or $500,000 decision within a 15-minute viewing, that's what we want to trigger. We want the maximum number of people to fall in love quickly. And so I think that's a great point. The other thing you mentioned was just about you don't want people to look at staging as an expense. You want them to look at it as an investment. As real estate professionals, stick with me on this. As real estate professionals, please, hopefully you have the same mindset about yourself.
Yes.
Your fee, your commission is not an expense to your client. It's an investment in the desired outcome. And what I would say that's really cool about what you guys do, Jan, what a really good stager does is you can quantify your value pretty quickly. I mean, I tell people, listen, if you gave me a quarter and I gave you $1, would you want to do that again? Right? I mean, my response would be, how many times can we do that? I got lots of, let me go get some more quarters. And that's how it is with staging. When we include staging in our process, and we'll get to that, and we pay for it, the client doesn't pay for it. But the reason we do that is because whatever we spend on staging, we're going to get 3, 4, 5 times back. Our client is going to get, 10, 15, 20. I mean, it's crazy. So
right.
You want to communicate that really, really effectively. And there's 2 levels of communication. Number 1 is we want the client to understand it's going to benefit them. Number 2, we want the client to understand that our system is going to add value and that staging is part of our system. And so it's kind of a dual educational deal. Staging works, it will sell for more, and it's part of our process. Therefore, our process is going to help you sell for more. So the other thing, we'll move on real quick, but the other thing you talked about was it's less than the cost of a price reduction. I hate price reductions.
Oh, yeah.
Price it right the first time, sell it quick, and you can sell for max value. So golly, that's a great point. It's just say, look, I'm not a big fan of price reductions. Why don't we price it aggressively? Let's price it on the high end. Let's do everything we can to get it. And let's not worry about dropping our price and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Let's just do it right now. And staging is part of doing it right. So before we get way too far ahead of ourselves, because we can get really excited about this, and I know you've got some really cool stuff to share, let me circle back really quick and just talk about the 2 other key vendors that I think are really, really important as part of kind of the process, the 3 key vendors that are important to help you sell homes for more money and more quickly. And then we'll definitely circle back and dig really deep on the process of how to build staging in and how it can literally help you sell houses for 7, 8, sometimes 10% or more above what you would have, all things the same, without staging. So the second key vendor that I want to make sure that people are at least considering bringing into your system would be pre-inspections. Now, I know what just happened. I know that 5 or 10% of you guys just said, this guy's crazy. If we do an inspection up front, we're going to have to disclose that, and it's going to get me in trouble. And I have a few comments on that. Number 1, if you're deliberately trying to not know about problems, the problems are still there. And your buyer is going to find it later. And all you're doing is inviting yourself and your team and everyone involved to spend time, energy, effort, and money to not close a deal. And to me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, there are a few very rare scenarios where you're selling a home in a distressed situation. The seller has no resources whatsoever to fix something, and you might opt out of doing this. But if you're working with quality clients, with quality homes in good areas, we strongly advise doing a pre-inspection. Now, this kind of works hand in hand with some of the staging, because you might actually bring the stagers in as you decide how to remedy some of these problems. If you need to patch some sheetrock in a wall, then you might, and you know you have to paint it, you might come into the stagers and say, hey, Jana, what color should we paint this thing? And she might tell you killing beige, or she might tell you something else. Gray's really, really popular right now. Let's go with the gray, whatever. But you want to bring in the pre-inspector for 3 key reasons. Number one, you want to eliminate deal killers. If there's something major wrong that's going to kill the deal later, and you're going to do all these other things to get a deal together and then lose it, you're just wasting time, energy, money, and you're breaking the heart of your seller, and you're wasting their time and energy and money as well. The second thing it does is, if you find those deal killers or you find problems, you can eliminate them for a fraction of the dollars that the buyer is going to ask you for to alleviate that problem. If I find a leak under a sink, I can have my guy come over and fix it for $50 or $75. If I'm representing a buyer and I find a leak on your listing, I'm going to ask for $300 or $400 or $500, because I don't know how long it's been leaking. I don't know what else you guys left broken and didn't fix. You're going to have to pay for my client's paranoia. So as a listing agent, I'm going to eliminate that paranoia by doing the inspection up front, fixing all those problems. And then the third big benefit is I'm going to turn the document, which is normally the scariest document in the entire process, which is the inspection report, I'm going to turn that into a marketing document. Now it's going to become a huge positive. I'm going to show it to you right up front, and you're going to look at that and you're going to go, wow, there's like nothing here. There's 2 problems, and right next to that I have a big asterisk, and that points me over here to a receipt with a warranty from a reputable professional. Now my buyer is thinking, sweet, these are the kinds of people that take care of their stuff and fix it if there's a problem, and I got a warranty. So I'm going to lean back and I'm going to relax. I'm going to be willing to spend a little bit more money on this house. I'm going to hurry up and do that quickly, because I know if I like it, everybody else is going to like it. Now, as a seller, whatever the cost of an inspection in your market is, $300, $400, maximum $500, now just alleviated the fear of the inspection, which is always worth a few $1,000s, and replaced it with hyper confidence in you and your home from the buyer and their agent. It's hard to quantify the value of that. So we believe in a pre-inspection. Now, the one caveat to this is we include that in our process, but we don't actually pay for that. It's the one thing we don't pay for. That's strictly kind of a liability deal. I do know of some other agents that pay for that. As far as I'm concerned, that's probably one of the higher levels of liability that we get our team involved in. So we'll coordinate it, we'll schedule it, we'll recommend some good reputable inspectors, but we'll tell them you can hire anybody you want, and we'll coordinate it. That's the only thing you'll have to pay for. So hopefully that's helpful. I'll take questions on that. If you have questions, throw them in the box in the Q&A tab over on the side. The third key event, well, before I go on to that, any thoughts or comments on that, Jana? I know you guys kind of sometimes are working as people are remedying some inspection items and things. Any input you would have on that?
Well, we do work with some great agents, you being the top, and I'm not just saying that. We have found that, and it may have come from you a few years ago, just letting us know that whenever a home is staged, it almost seems like it even inspects better, it appraises better. And I have heard it too, that with waiting until inspection at the end is like giving somebody opportunity to write a blank check. So for us, we do investment properties as well, and we want to know up front how is the roof? What's going on with this property? And play offense. Offense is always better than playing to me. So I totally agree 100% with that pre-inspection.
Yeah, it's about being proactive instead of reactive, and that probably was me because I usually say these two things, and I'll add them now. Um, we want when we market and we position a home, it's not just for the buyer. It's for the buyer's agent, it's for the buyer's mom and dad and Uncle Lou that's going to come over and put in his 2 cents. It's for the lender, and then the two big ones, it's for the inspector and the appraiser. Now, everybody knows it's already on the market by the time the appraiser comes over. So of course the appraiser is going to pull it up, look at it online, check it out before he comes over. Do I want his gut instinct to be like, oh gosh, another nasty one? What do you think he's going to do when he gets there and he has one of those sitting on the fence moments? Round up or round down? Do you want to have some impact on that or not? Staging will help. Number two, when the inspector comes, it's not that we're going to have staged yet, but if we've pre-inspected it and he knows there's no buyer involved, you work for me, and we're doing this to make sure we really get our house in great position to sell. Do you think that he's going to be cooperative with you and say, look, I'm going to write the report this way, but verbally I'm going to tell you that maybe you want to do this too? I've never in my entire career asked an inspector to do anything outside of exactly what he's obligated to do and write me a good, thorough report. But it's nice when they'll verbalize something a little bit more specifically than they're writing it to give you kind of a helping hand to prep for market. So that's a very good comment. I appreciate you saying that because it's really important to what we're talking about. Okay, so staging is the first vendor I would talk about. The inspector was the second, and the third one is a world-class professional photographer. Now, I'm not talking about a really good iPhone. I'm not talking about you buying a really good DSLR camera with a decent tripod. I'm talking about you're supposed to be an expert at real estate. And I'm pointing my finger at you. You are supposed to be an expert at real estate. Jan is an expert at staging. You're supposed to be an expert at real estate. Hire an expert photographer. Okay. Now, if you happen to be uniquely gifted and skilled in your past life, you were a world-class photographer, okay. But for most of us, find someone in your market or train and equip someone in your market that is a world-class photographer. And I mean real estate photographer. Now, you probably have 25 friends that have a good camera that are doing senior photos on the side and family portraits in front of the bridge at the local park on the side. And they're really great at wedding photography. But I promise you, portrait photography, family photos, birthday party photos are galaxies away from high quality real estate photography. Couches and walls and floors and mirrors eat up and reflect light like nothing I've ever seen in my life. You've got to find somebody who's really, really good at taking real estate photography. Now, if you currently use a service that does this for every agent in town, they are probably better than average, but they are not world-class. If they were world-class, they probably wouldn't be doing that. And that's not a criticism of anyone or anybody or anything, but the better your photos, the faster your properties will sell and for more money, okay? You already know that instinctively, but now you've heard it from me. Jana's nodding. You've heard it from us. I joke around, and part of our marketing conversation, we say, look, the single most important technology that we use is photography. The first showing happens online. If the photos are not incredible, you're not even in the game. It doesn't matter. You can have a 50-foot long yard sign, but if nobody's fallen in love with it online, the random stranger that drives by is your only hope of selling that house. So you have to have world-class photography. You want your photographer to take a bazillion photos and you want to whittle that down to the 20 or 30 best photos, and you want them to stand out when somebody's scrolling and looking for a bunch of houses online. Okay, so 3 key vendors: world-class stager, great home inspector up front, and a world-class photographer. We could talk for hours and hours and days on how to use all that and how to integrate it. But what I'd like to do next, this will be fun for me. So Jana, if you don't mind, would you kind of tell everybody why it is that you're passionate about staging? I mean, how did you get into this? Why in the world would you be a stager?
Well, that is a question I get quite often, and our story, I guess, from the beginning was I was working corporate America. I had taken real estate courses and design courses in college, ended up with a marketing degree, and went into corporate America like a lot of people. Well, we had a home that we were wanting to sell. We actually bought before we sold. And we had about a 60-day out for the double mortgage to start. So we immediately got an offer. We went ahead and moved into the new home, and lo and behold, the closing kept getting pushed off, and we found out that the guy ended up coming down with a serious disease and did not want to go through with a closing. So now here we are, stuck with 2 mortgage payments by this time, a little stressed out. And I asked the agent, I said, what if I bring some things back into this home so it's not so empty? And he said, you mean stage? Well, this was early 2000s, before HGTV shows. I had no idea what staging was. And he said, yeah, try it out. So we brought some things back, really not even doing any kind of research. I strategically placed them, no big furniture. And we had 2 offers within 2 weeks. And that was the only variable that had changed. So this was after months of, just stress. And I thought, okay, if I'm having this problem, so are other people. And I just didn't even know that staging existed. So having that moment of experience, I did not start out like a lot of stagers as a hobbyist, or, kind of a side business, do it when I want to, it's fun. But I was on purpose about it. I immediately got training, and, 10 plus years later, we're here. We have a team of over 20, and we also teach and train and coach other people, to not make the same mistakes we've made and to get there a lot quicker than we did. So my heart is all in it. I was a believer from day one. I think that's why that passion is there. I know it makes a difference, and we have thousands and thousands of stories to back that up. And then, of course, statistics. So a home is never going to show worse with professional staging. And I say professional staging, not your cousin or your friend down the street that it's a hobby for them, but they've been professionally trained. And just like a professional photographer that's been trained, you definitely need to find a professional stager in your area or train them up, have them go through a designation and get them trained and have them part of your team.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job of being modest. So I'll tell the rest of the story. So, first of all, it's awesome that you kind of discovered this as opposed to, like you said, kind of coming at it as a hobby, which so many people do in our industry as well. I think it's easier to trust somebody when it happens the way it happened with you, when it was a necessity. I mean, you found a solution to a problem, and
right.
now you can solve other people's problems. And some people don't view that as a problem, but when you're competing against other people that are trying to sell your house and your house doesn't look as good, it's a problem.
Right.
So the other thing there is to say is the HSRA part of what Jana does is they train and equip stagers all over the world. So just in case we run out of time and don't have time to circle back, if you're in a market outside of Dallas-Fort Worth and you don't know a great stager or you don't have access to one, you need to get in contact with Jana. We'll make sure at the end that we get her contact information out for everybody, because their organization can train you or someone on your team or someone in your market to be certified, designated as a world-class home stager, and they can teach you and equip you how to get some of the resources you need to be able to stage homes well. And there's a really cool kind of side business opportunity there too, to train and equip somebody to stage your listings, which, I don't like that word, but the properties that you're marketing. And then all of a sudden you've got somebody with a skill set that you can now hire out to other agents and brokers in your market. And you can kind of be the keeper of of that expertise. So that's pretty cool. We're spoiled. We're in the same market. So I'm not training anybody on my team. I'm hiring her team. But if you don't have that privilege, you can get close and get her brain trained onto someone in your market. So I'll make sure you get that info. It's nice to have guests that aren't trying to shove that down our throat, but I do want to make sure you guys are able to reach out to her and get some of that info if you want to. So a couple of other thoughts on what you're talking about, Jana, is ideally you don't want to do what you did and get it on the market, don't have success, and then circle back and fix the problem. So
right.
What we do, as you know, but for the benefit of everybody hanging out with us here, is what we do is we almost never put a home on the market without staging it. Once in a blue moon, we might a light industrial or a virtual tear down or something like that. But we stage, I don't know, you probably have better numbers than me, but we staged hundreds of houses with Jana's team over the last few years. But if it goes on the market with us and it's a home that a family or somebody's going to live in, it's going to be staged. And that wasn't always the case. Sometimes it was an option, and we just learned that the results were so incredible that we no longer wanted it to be an option. And so we just built it into our system, and we pay for it. And the client and our company really benefit from the value that we get back from the benefit of staging. So the question that's buried in there is, Jana, why do you think more agents don't just build it into their system?
Well, you probably have a better answer than I do on that. I know from our experience, that's always a puzzle because it only makes sense. And the market that we're in now is, it's going to sell. The buyers are just settling. They'll just buy anything on the market. It doesn't have to be perfect. But it's all about one-upping the competition. And really, professional staging is for a buyer's and seller's market. Whether you want to stand out and stand above in either scenario, and you want multiple offers and a lot more money above list price, can even happen in a great market. Obviously, if we've got a ton of houses out there, we're just going to stand out above that competition. So I think that the average agent may feel like, I just don't know how to talk to my client about this. And because once they experience like you did, you are a believer, and there's never a second chance to make a first impression. And sometimes we work with agents, and we have one right now that it's already been on the market for 9 months, and now they're calling us in. So it's a situation of, you need to be a believer, you need to have the experience, be creative about the payment structure, and if you've got to reimburse people at closing, if you're not like a Todd Tremonti that can invest that once you get them in the pipeline, it just starts paying for itself. But it's one of those things where you just have to be creative. You have to just pull the trigger on it and experience it, and once you do, you're a believer.
Well, and that's, you bring up a good point. When we started working with you guys, we had all those same fears and doubts, and I'm sure I annoyed you can we pay you at closing, that kind of stuff. But like you said, once we got a pipeline rolling where staging was part of the process, it's not a question of, do you have the money or is it worth it? This is one of our top priorities for marketing. So there's some other things down the line we might not have the money for, or might not fit into the highest level of priority. But the results are so clear and abundant that it's not even funny. Okay, I want to make sure that we're not just spending the whole time telling people that staging is important, because I think most of the people that are with us today are pretty sharp agents, and they know staging works. But the point that I want to make that's beneficial to people today is, if you'll build it into your system, your houses will sell faster, they'll sell for more money, and then a lot of times it's up to you, of course, but you can be better compensated. The value you now bring the client because you brought this service now makes you a more valuable piece of the process. So, all commissions are negotiable and not set by law. Set your own commission, do whatever you do. But you might find yourself with the ability to increase your fees because you're increasing the value that you deliver to the client. I wanted to make, I've got your book here. I got a couple things that I read in there that I wanted to share with everybody. And you just touched on what some of the excuses for not using staging for an agent in this market is that the market's so hot, it's going to sell anyway. And that makes me want to throw a stapler through the wall. To me, it's just such a dumb argument. And it's kind of like a certain for sale by owner arguments. And I'm not saying realtors are dumb or for sale by owners are dumb. I'm saying I think people are missing the opportunity. So let me real quick, in your book, you just said, if the market has fewer homes, then staging will cause an even quicker sale. This allows for homes to sometimes receive above asking price and sell within days. Exactly. Here's what I would add even to that is, in a low inventory market, you have the opportunity to sell at never before seen prices. If you consider yourself a true expert, is your job to take the path of least resistance, or is it to get your client results that they never dreamed possible? So you could say, look, the market's hot, it's going to sell anyway. Well, did you promise your client that you would just get it sold? Or did you promise your client that you were their very best option in your marketplace to get the very best price in the very best timeline possible? Because if you told them you're an expert, and if you told your client that you were their best option for the best price and the best time, then I think you're not maximizing the opportunity if you just say it's going to sell anyway. Because I promise you, if you don't stage, and I have the same house on the same street, same square footage, same lot, same everything, and I do stage, I win.
Right.
Mine's going to sell first, and it's probably going to sell for more money, and it's very likely to sell for quite a bit more money. Mm-hmm. Now, I want you to do more than just stage it. And when I say just stage, I mean staging's big, but I want you to do more than stage it. But if that's all you did, you would beat the guy who didn't. So now, right. How is the other guy telling his client that wouldn't help us? Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, budget matters and things like that. Degree of benefit matters. But I'm just telling you, in a market like this, I want to stage even more than I do in a high inventory market, because the result I can get the client is world class. Now, flip the deal. In a low inventory market, in a high inventory market, you said when the market is saturated with homes, it is important to stand out above the competition. Otherwise, you're never going to sell. So the same is obviously true. If there's 57 houses for sale and they all look the same, I sure as heck better do everything I can to look better than those other guys. Or like we said before, the first showing that happens online, I'm never going to get the second showing. They're never even going to show up physically at the property. Offers are a pipe dream because nobody's even knocking on the door. So it makes sense in both markets. It makes sense if you're sale by owner, if you're an investor, like I said, the few rare scenarios might be where I'm not going to bring nice furniture into a house that just caught on fire. I'm not going to bring nice furniture into a house that a hoarder just let, but man, in almost every other scenario, it just makes sense. And I'm not just talking about do it because it helps. I'm talking about do it because it positions you as an expert. It's gonna increase your numbers and your track record on percentage of list price, days on market, number of homes sold, all of pending ratios. It's a huge marketing, positioning, momentum builder. Am I right or wrong, or where am I off course here, Gina?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so many people think, well, my gosh, I really almost see it as a disservice not to professionally stage, because it has to be one of the key marketing components. And, you brought up professional photography. You can have the best world-class photographer, yeah. But at taking a picture of an empty home. I mean, what room is this? I can't even tell. So with professional photography comes the professional staging first, so that now we do have those great pictures. And I think that it's a huge point that people definitely need to get is, if you want to be the best of the best, if you want to be a 1%er, these 3 key vendors have to work together. And you can sleep good at night knowing that you have provided the best service, and you haven't had a question or a doubt of, oh, maybe I should have offered staging at the beginning. It is that system that continues for every home. It's part of your process that you repeat. And I think it's something that definitely you'll see the difference for sure.
Yeah. And I tell agents when I'm consulting with them privately that, it's not manipulation, it's marketing, but you're constantly trying to position yourself as the expert. You want your client to say, man, that Todd guy is not like the other agents in our market, man. They think differently, they operate differently. His system is unbelievable. There's some other nice guys and really nice agents in town. There's some people that have some good looking flyers, but they just have a whole different, they've got this big system. And when you start bringing in other vendors as part of your marketing team, and that's impressive. And that's what we tell people. Oh, once we get your home under agreement, once we've decided to work together, then we're going to send our entire marketing team out there. It's going to be great. Stagers, photographers, agents, we're going to go line by line, room by room, and figure out exactly what it is that we're going to market. And then we're going to accentuate the positives, and we're going to have a story to tell to communicate the negatives as positives. And we're going to get this house sold really quickly for top dollar. So I think people need to understand the value of not just suggesting staging, but of offering it as part of your system. The staging professional is an extension of your team, as is the inspector and the photographer, and some of your key vendors like plumber, electrician, roofer. I mean, all those different things. And we won't get into those other vendors, but how do you, Jana, what are some of the better ways, or maybe you want to focus on some of the bad things that agents do when they're kind of pre-selling you as either part of their system or pre-selling your service as just a one-off third-party system? Or what? I'll share how we do that, which I think is good. You can give your thoughts on that. But what are some good or bad ways that agents do that really shoots themselves in the foot, that hurts the agent?
Right. Well, I think that I don't know if you've ever heard of a stagent, but that is a stager and an agent together, right? So that is someone that does not understand the value of their time. I would say, as a listing agent, you definitely don't want to now put on another hat of stager. You want to focus on getting those listings. So that's one mistake I see. In fact, I have 2 flyers that came in the mail from different stagents that said that they stage their own, and they mean themselves. So it's hard to build that credibility there when now we have to sometimes come in and have those tough conversations of what needs to stay, what needs to go. And, the dog needs to, the home smells like a pet. I mean, we have to have those conversations. It's really hard for that agent to do that. So that's one challenge, is decide who you want to be. You're either the top-notch listing agent, or you're the stager. And pick one and go from there. Number 2 is they do feel like our service is a decorating service. They really don't understand the value that's brought to the table of, getting that first impression, showing online, that we are marketing the home, not decorating it to live in. So that's a big thing too, is they feel like that we're going to come bring a bunch of furniture and put it all over the home, but we want to show valuable square footage. So it's all about that strategic placement, like I talked about. Those are the big 2 key things. I feel like you have the best strategy for presenting staging, saying, I'm not the expert. We're going to bring that. That's only building your team and your credibility whenever you surrounded yourselves with the experts. So I'm excited for you to share that.
Yeah, so let me do that then, and stick with us, and I'll just kind of spill the beans. Stick with us until the end, and I'm going to give you a link where you can get my scripts on how we pre-sell our three key vendors. I mean, word for word, exactly what I train my team to say to our clients, what I say to our clients, so that when the stagers show up to the house, the client just says, "Hey, you guys do what you do. I was told that you guys are fantastic and you're going to get me more money. So just let me get out of your way." So that they call the inspector, or they ask us to call the inspector and just say, "Book it. Tell me where to send the payment." So that they call, when we say the photographer's coming at 2, it's clean and ready for photos. So the way we do that with staging, there's a lot to it, but before I give you the exact script, let me give you kind of some of the mindset behind that. We tell our clients that we want to create what I call the cupcake factor. And it's kind of sounds kind of stupid and silly, but I basically tell them, have you ever been to a little kid's birthday party where you could just tell some, if not all of the kids are just eyeing the cake or the cupcakes? They're staring at the sweets the whole time. They don't care about what's going on. They just want to get to the candy or the cake or whatever. Well, you've probably seen what I've seen is at some point, some little kid wants it bad enough that he grabs a cupcake and licks it, which is disgusting. But he wanted it bad enough that he didn't want anybody else to have it, so he licked that bad boy. That's kind of the mindset we want to create when somebody's viewing one of our properties that we're marketing, when they're viewing one of our listings, right? So husband and wife come in the house, agent standing there, they're walking through the house. What I want is I want wife to look at husband and say, "I want this house. I don't want anybody else to get it. What do we have to do right now so that we live here and the guy sitting in his car waiting outside doesn't even get to come inside and look at it? What do we need to do? How much do we need to pay? How quickly do we need to pay it? Who do we need to call? I want this house." Okay, that's what I want people to do when they walk through my listings. I want someone stomping their feet saying, looking at their husband saying, "Get me this house." Now, I'm not a chauvinist dirtbag. Maybe it's the husband stomping his feet. Maybe it's a single guy. I don't care. I want whoever's in there to want that house so bad that they're asking, "What do I need to do and how fast can I do it?" Excuse me. Okay, so that's what I call the cupcake factor. Now, Jana has cleverly named her company Model My Home. The whole point, of course, is if you've ever been into a model home for a home builder, you know that feeling of just kind of looking around and being like, "Man, I want this house. I want that toaster. I want that painting. I want this smell. I'll even take the fake TV hanging on the wall. I like it just like this feels like home." That's what we want to create, okay? And so we want to create that mindset in our prospective seller when they're sitting at our conference table. That's where we do most of our marketing conversations or listing appointments, as you might call it. But even if you're sitting at their table, you want to start painting the picture that what I'm going to create here is an environment where a buyer is going to come in and then never want to leave. They're going to want to come in and give you a check and tell you to get out because they live here now. That's what we want to create, okay? So that's what I'm trying to create in the mind of a prospective seller when I'm telling them that I include staging or professional positioning in my process, okay? So I'm going to say to them, "Hey, Jana, one of the next things that we include in our process that I think is going to be incredibly valuable to you guys is what most people call staging. We call it strategic positioning, but because it's a lot more than just quote unquote staging. And what I mean when I say that is basically we're gonna position this house like a model home. We're gonna make this house look and feel like it is absolutely 100% ready for somebody to move in tomorrow. We want them to fall in love with it. We want them to stomp their feet and wring their hands and say, "Look, how much do I have to pay and how quickly can I pay it?" And so here's kind of how that's going to go. They're going to come over and they're going to physically stage your house. I'm going to pay them. Don't you worry about that. It's so valuable that we're not even going to question it. They're going to come over. They're going to bring a crew. They're going to move the couches. They might move some rugs. They might thin out some shelves and things. All you've really got to do is just kind of step back and tell them, "Listen, you do what you do." We trust them at such a high level that I would literally say, just do what they recommend. And by the way, it might be a little bit annoying. They might put something in a place that you don't want. They might angle the couch in a way that it's not the best view of the TV. But just remember, What they're doing, they're not designing your house so that it's comfortable for you. They're not even designing it so that it's the most beautiful it can be. They are going to stage it. They're going to prepare it so that when a buyer comes through the house for 5 minutes to say 15 minutes, that buyer can then make a $2 or $3 or $4 or $500,000 decision during that 5 to 15 minutes. They're also going to stage it, position it so that when the photographer comes over, takes great photos, and then we post those to every website known to man and print them on every flyer and direct mail them to every potential buyer. When they see that, they go, wow, this looks different than all the other ones I've seen. We've got to go see this one. That's what they're doing. They want to make sure that the flow of traffic through the house is easy. At no point are you going, this is a weird room. At no point are you going, man, I don't think our table would fit in here. At no point are you saying, where are we going to put the couch? They're going to paint that picture that living in this home is going to be the lifestyle they've always dreamed of. It's not about your comfort. It's not about the most beautiful thing that you could ever envision. It's about getting a buyer to say, whoa, I want to spend a lot of money on this right now. Mm-hmm. So when they come over, they're going to handle all that. I trust them. You should trust them too. We'll pay them. We'll coordinate when they come with you guys. But when they come out, just let them do what they do. Typically, when we stage a home, it's going to sell somewhere between 5 and 10%, sometimes even more, above what most other houses will sell for. So obviously I could rant and rave about it all day long. It's an important part of our process. So we'll send them out. Does that sound good to you guys? Okay, great. So that's kind of how we pre-sell it. If I need to do any more, I'll give them the selling my car metaphor. It's just kind of like when I sell my car, it's nasty. Some days I'd be embarrassed if you saw it, but the day I go to sell it, looks great, smells great, feels great. That's how we're going to do the house, okay? And once they do that, we just need you to keep it just like it is when they leave, all the way through when it's sold. So if you can do that for me, I'll probably only need it for a week or so. I'm going to get it sold that quickly if you'll follow the system, and then we'll make sure that it looks great for the appraiser, because we want to impress him too. And then we'll start packing up and get you guys ready to get into your next house. So that's kind of how we pre-sell you guys. What else would you add or take away from that, Jana?
Well, one thing that really helps us is a pre-staging checklist. And so we like to send a list out that says, it's very general, it lets them know to go ahead and get in a nice way, remove their laundry, do the dishes, clean the house, so that we're not literally over there as merry maids cleaning a home, and we can actually get to work really quickly. So pre-staging checklist is huge. I know with you, we do a lot of 2-hour touch-ups, and you may have some viewers going, what the heck does staging cost? What is an average price? And we do those for about $250. That's 2 stagers in a home, just doing what they do best, is working with the homeowner's items and basically editing room by room. We always focus on the first impression of that home because we want the wow factor. And then, of course, we have a pre-showing checklist, and I can get those to you as resources as well for your community, because, if they're living there especially, they have to maintain the look. And so we want that first impression to continue on, so that what they see online is actually what they're going to experience in the home during the showing. Yeah. So
okay,
those
that's
are
great.
key things.
And those are good resources. We'll make sure people get some contact info for you guys, and if they want that, I wouldn't mind providing it. But if you want, they can get it directly from you, or however you want to do that. But, the other, okay, so that stuff is good. I think, I just think it's such a no-brainer, and I think it's easy to convince a seller that it's valuable. And I'm not saying that just because I've been doing it for a long time, but golly, the statistics say that if you do this, you'll sell houses for so much more and so much faster. And I don't know any 2 better ways to build confidence in your potential client than to say, look, here's our track record. When we put a house on the market, it sells in X number of days, and that is X% faster than the market average. And it sells for Y number of dollars, and that is Y% more than our market average. That's just my track record. That's an average. Some of them are way more than that. Occasionally there's one that's less than that. We're not perfect, but that's what this system produces. And this is the system I recommend for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And so does it make sense for us to work together? I mean, it just makes sense. And you just let the cat out of the bag. I mean, for less than $300, you could potentially increase the sales price of your listing 5 to 10%. Unless you're selling, what would it have to be, like $8,000 homes? I mean, well, it'd be funny to do the math, but for you not to get a multiple of $300, you're already in big trouble, So if you're selling $100,000 houses, which is fine, some markets are $100,000, and you spend $200 to $300 to stage it, and it sells for 5% more, what your commission is a percentage of that. I mean, you got to have a long-term vision of building your business, and this is just, it's crazy to think you wouldn't do it. So go ahead with what you're saying, Jana, and then I want to make sure
price per square foot on the investment in staging and professional photography. I mean, you just that equation would be hysterical to think about. So I don't, the value is there that we can impact a sale. And you're talking our average days on market is less than 2 weeks, and at or above list price in most of our cases. So it is huge, and it makes us feel like we are making a difference and part of that marketing team. So we can visually impact the property, and then of course when they get there, all the senses are in play as well. So teaming with a professional stager can be the biggest game changer for your industry.
Yeah, I mean, right now in our key market areas, of course, occasionally we'll do a property outside of a key area, but in our key area, our average days on market is 4.4 days, and our average sale price is 7.2% above the market average sales price. And so much of that has to do with our key vendor partners, and of course, there's a lot of other factors too. But how cool is it when you can write a check to someone else and then they do their job? And that has a multiplying effect on your income. There's a lot of things you can do that will increase your results, but you got to do it.
Right.
This is one of those rare deals where you have a key vendor. You say, look, let me pay you a reasonable fee for your expertise, and then you do what you do, and then we all benefit. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, but we got a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we hit all the things we promised. So I talked about how some of the misconceptions around negotiation are big, and we're running out of time, but I'm going to give you a really, really fast definition of negotiation from my point of view. Most agents view negotiation as working out the numbers in the contract. I view it as anything that I do or my team does that's going to impact my client's time, money, or energy. And energy could be stress, okay? So that's how we answer the phone, how we communicate about the house, how quickly we reply to things, if we know our stuff or we don't know our stuff, and of course the terms of the agreement. But if we communicate poorly on day one of a 45-day sales cycle, we're already putting our client at a disadvantage long before we get into the actual terms of the contract. So I believe that everything we do is negotiation. So our staging is part of our negotiation process. Our pre-inspection is part of our negotiation process because they're building up the negotiation leverage for my client. The photography is part of our negotiation because we're painting a picture that will give leverage to my client. Unfortunately, we don't have much time to go in more depth of that, but we can do that on a future call, future hangout. I want to make sure we hit everything. I talked about how you can put in $1 and get $10 net back at closing. Staging is that thing. You should be able to spend $200 to $300 on staging, and that should increase your net outcome, certainly the outcome for your seller, by at least $2,000 to $3,000, as long as you're in a decent price range, right? The vacant staging is a little bit different, but you're still going to get a huge return on that, and we can talk, at another time about that. Sometimes we pay the price of that, sometimes we have the client, but it's still just a no-brainer. I want to give out some information, Jana, just to make sure people can get a hold of you. What's the best way for people to reach out to you, your association, whatever it is that you want to share with people?
Absolutely. Well, they can email me directly at Jana, Jana, at myhsra.com. So again, that's just Jana, Jana, at myhsra.com. And then we're a phone call away at 855-85-STAGE. And then, of course, our website, myhsra.com. If they're local to Dallas-Fort Worth, our company that is still active and incredible today that you work with, Todd, is Model My Home. So we are unfortunately only in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but if somebody has a question about a stager in their area, we have our network to help facilitate, finding that right person for them.
Yeah, if you're in the DFW area, just write it down. Model My Home. Call, email, whatever you got to do. It's a no-brainer. If you're in another area, call them anyway and have them help you find somebody great in your market, or have them help train somebody so that you can put someone in your market. Okay, write down this website name, this domain name. If you go to toddsvendorscripts.com, toddsvendorscripts.com, toddsvendorscripts.com. Just put in whatever email you want us to send to email you the 3 scripts. I gave you kind of my script for how we pre-sell staging. You'll also get the pre-sell script for pre-inspection and the pre-sell script for professional photography. Those are designed to make you look like the expert you are. You're doing the work. You're on stuff like this to learn how to do your job better, to be more of an expert, to add more value to your client. You're talking to me, you're talking to Jana, you're checking with experts in your industry so that you can add more value for your clients. You want to reiterate that, re-communicate that, and position yourself really well. So you can get my scripts if you want them. If you don't want them, that's fine. If you want them, go to toddsvendorscripts.com and you can get access to that information and some other information too. On the Google Plus page, if you weren't able to get a question in, you can post a question on the Google Plus page, the event page for this, and we'll answer those for you here pretty quickly. And you can get access to previous Google Hangouts we've done. And we look forward to a really good one again next month. Jana, thank you so much for being with us. If people want to get your book, here it is, Home Staging, buy the book. Reach out to Jana and talk to her about getting great stagers built into your system. Even if you're an individual agent, that's even better reason to have a third-party stager as an extended part of your team. We're a little bit over, but hopefully you guys got great value out of it. Jana, thank you so much for being with us. Really, really great today.
Thank you.
All right, have a great one. Everybody, we'll see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day and go sell some houses. Y'all take care.